Profundity and Mundanity. That is going to be the topic of this episode of Chi Life. A few weeks ago, relatively late in the evening, I was sitting around a fire outdoors in a fire pit, and there were a few other people sitting around the fire. Some of them were, reasonably young, and as they were talking about different things, they started to get a bit philosophical and talk about some of the bigger things in life. And one of the topics that came up was someone started to talk about how everything is energy. And, they were talking about that a little bit, and then someone else said, well, I guess almost everything's energy because, what about things that are physical? And someone else there was saying, no, physical things are energy too. We know this, some basic physics, basic modern physics. Einstein was famous for it. E equals mc squared. So energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And this is the foundation of how we understand things to do with nuclear reactions and things like that. And we have lots of practical applications for that. Nuclear power plants run based on this, and there's lots of experimental proof and application for this principle. So we know that very literally, everything that's physical is energy as well. It's just in a state that's very condensed, very dense, and so that becomes matter. But ultimately, it's energy, and that energy can be released. So anyway, it got that far in the conversation. And, often when these sorts of conversations are going on, I just let them run. I don't necessarily get involved in them. But I was invited to comment on some of the things that people were saying, and so I did become involved in this one. And then as they continue to talk about everything being energy, someone was saying, but maybe not space itself, like right out in the depth of space, that can't be energy. So maybe not everything's energy. It's like pretty much everything's energy, but there's this idea of space that is not energy. And, and one of these young people, they were thinking about it and like, it has the capacity to hold energy, but maybe it's not actually energy. And I did chime in on this one. Because even in the immensity, the depths of space, depending on how we want to think about these things, but often, and there's real practical application of this, space is thought of as being a field. And so, therefore, by its very nature, that means it is energy. It's a field. And this, and within that field, there are areas of higher and lower potential, but it's part of an energetic whole. And again, there are practical applications of this. This isn't just some hypothesized thing. There's very real practical examples and applications of this. One of them being quantum entanglement, for example, where things become connected and, across vast distances, changes of one create a change in another. How does that happen? It happens because of the nature of space being as a field. And as we were talking about these things, I could see we'd gone through this progression from just talking about, I don't know what they're talking about before, but then talking about everything being energy, and then how actually even matter is energy, and then finally onto how even the depths of space is energy in a sense. And I could see minds starting to expand and go off into perhaps not the most useful of directions. At which point I added something else. Having gone through this process, exploring, really right down to the nth degree, everything is energy. What does that actually mean? And so I made another comment. I said, saying everything is energy in many ways isn't all that profound of a statement. In many ways, saying that everything is energy is really just saying the equivalent of saying that everything is. It's just a simple statement of fact. Everything is energy. but how profound is it? There comes a point where things seem more and more profound, but then when you've explored it fully, and it's useful, it's valuable to explore these things fully and gain some insight, you realize that simply the statement of those things isn't profound in itself, because knowing that everything's energy, yeah, it opens up some possibilities, some potential about how you might think about things. But when it really comes down to it, what matters is what you do in your life. And knowing that the depth of space is energy, unless you're involved in some pretty high-level physics or astrophysics or something like that, doesn't necessarily have all that practical a meaning in your life. And there's always, and we talk about these sorts of things a fair bit in Qigong, in Chinese philosophy, and so on, about there being these parallels, these opposites within the same thing. And, exploring profound concepts is useful, but they're only useful when you bring them back to a mundane level. And yeah, for an astrophysicist, maybe, working with space and understanding that it's a field and so on is a mundane, useful thing within their work. But all of that knowledge, all of those, big ideas are only useful in so much as we can apply them in our lives. And yeah, sometimes we need to rein ourselves in, or it's helpful to rein ourselves in. It's good to think big, have these profound insights, but then at the same time bring it back to, and what does that actually mean in my life? How does that affect me? How can I use that? And of course, there are ways you can use that, but a lot of the ways that we use that sort of knowledge is very practical, very straightforward, very mundane. How do we influence our energy? Not worrying about the vastness of space, how do we influence our energy in our daily lives, our interaction with other people, our interaction with the environment? And then it becomes something that's really valuable to us. And of course, this is the sort of thing we explore in our Qigong practices, on a regular basis. And I guess even within Qigong, you can sometimes get swept away with profound ideas, which if you get swept away with them too far, they actually take your focus away from the things that are really valuable to you. And there's nothing wrong with having the profound ideas, but it's always helpful to then bring it back to, okay, what does that mean to me right now? What can I do to make my own energy more healthy, more harmonious? And, as a flow on from that, that means that physically, because matter is energy as well, making my body healthier, more energetic, and making me more able to do the things I value in my life and to interact with people around me in valuable ways. Qigong is really good at that too. It's good at giving you profound insights, and it's also good at bringing it back to the practical, adjusting your posture, moving in ways that allow you to move more smoothly and with more efficiency of your energy. Working with your emotions, bringing balance to your emotions. That's another type of energy. And then really working with your energy in a valuable way. In a lot of ways, you could consider this a little bit like a famous old saying, famous old Taoist saying, which is, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, so after some profound understanding of something, still chop wood, carry water. These profound insights and big concepts are really useful, but what's really valuable is what we bring back and how we apply it in our lives. Chopping wood, carrying water. We know that we can make energy out of the physical matter of wood. That's a really simple example. You can burn it, on a fire, and that creates energy. But to make that practical, you've got to go chop the wood. If you want to drink some water, you've got to go fetch the water from somewhere. So anyway, just a little bit of a, hopefully not too rambling thought that I had. Thought I'd share with you, maybe has some practical relevance in some of the things that you're working with in your life, maybe in your practice of Qigong, maybe your study of philosophy. to recognize this dynamic harmony between profundity and mundanity. That, yep, there's value in understanding some of these profound things, but it's really only as valuable as we're able to bring back to the mundane and really apply in our lives. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the vlog. If you've made it this far, you probably have. If so, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those good things. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.